Hello, and welcome back to That Is Effin' Weird. Yep, we got another episode about military in honor of the military month. And again, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering a little bit of some lesser known stuff within the military. Whether that be cryptids, mysteries, maybe some murders within the military. That would actually be a good one. I didn't even think about that till just now. We might do that one. There's, I think, an extra week within this month. And still trying to figure out what we're going to do for that specific day. But nonetheless, I am Stevenson Longbotom, and you're here to learn about some unsolved, maybe some weird or mysterious stuff that happened in the military. Now, I will preface this by saying I'm going to be reading from Milspouses.com. I'll provide the link in the description if you want to check some of these articles out yourself. Some of these things we have talked about in past episodes. As I go through this, you'll see which ones I'm talking about. But we're going to start at the top of the list. We're just going to work our way down. I'll probably stop at a few of them and go a little bit deeper into each one of these topics. But beyond that, we'll just go right down this list. We'll talk about it. I'll throw my 2 cents in, and we'll keep on keeping on. All right, so here we go. So the first one, and this is one that we've covered before, is Flight 19, the Bermuda Triangle Mystery. On December 5th, 1945, the 5 U.S. Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers vanished during a training over the Atlantic Ocean. The formation, known as Flight 19, was led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor. During the mission, Taylor reported that his compass had failed and he had believed the group was flying over the Florida Keys, when in reality they had gone far east, away from the land. A rescue plane dispatched to find them also disappeared. A Navy ship later reported seeing an explosion and spotted an oil slick, but no wreckage was ever found. The Navy finally reported The Navy's final report cited disorientation, fuel exhaustion, and as the most likely cases. Still, the complete disappearance of the 6 aircraft in the area known as the Bermuda Triangle remains one of aviation's and military's most enduring mysteries. Now, we had covered this one way back in season 1. So season 1 was kind of an odd one. We were still trying to figure out how we wanted to break up the seasons and how we do stuff. So essentially, within the last 2 years, we had covered Flight 19. This one is probably within the last, I'd say, year and a half, we had covered Flight 19. A lot of weird stuff with this one, right? So the thing with the Bermuda Triangle, right? I think you go onto the History Channel, you go on to this one is covered a lot. If you want any really scientific stuff about Bermuda Triangle, just go into YouTube or, like I said, the History Channel. They cover this stuff all the time, it seems like. But from my understanding, the biggest thing with the Bermuda Triangle, right, is personally I want to believe that, yeah, there is some odd paranormal stuff going on. But from my understanding, that area has some sort of gases permeating from the bottom of the ocean. For whatever reason, I have this locked in my memory, but someone, again, one of those channels had a ship replica, right? I think it's methane gas, if I remember this correctly. But they... Oh, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure we covered the Bermuda Triangle as well. No, I think doesn't matter. Anyways, the methane gas, the bubbles from it can totally engulf a ship, and this replica, that's what happened. They put a little bit of bubbles, man. It just, the buoyancy of the ship does, the way that, the water and oxygen levels and all that stuff and scientific shit, right? The boat wouldn't float anymore. So as it was passing over these bubbles, the boat literally sank. Now, the weird thing about all of this, right, is okay, if that is happening, okay, accept it. It is what it is, right? The big thing, right, is, okay, well, where did the ship go? or where do these planes go? That's, I think, the biggest mystery. I can accept that, like, all right, yep, these gases, scientific laws, stuff can't float, stuff can't fly, whatever it is. So there's that, right? Which again, like, the mystery is where would they go? Now I understand, like, if you've swam in a lake or a pool or whatever, and you have your little toys or whatever, and you throw them in, they never go. It's never a direct line, like, straight down, right? Like, things kind of like sway, and the ocean is constantly moving too. And I don't know when, or if they, for this specific incident for Flight 19, I don't know if they sent people, like divers, down to try to find the wreckage. And if so, like, I don't know how deep that is. So I don't know if, they tried, or, maybe closer to the actual islands or whatever they tried. But yeah, it's just one of those that's the biggest mystery, I think, with all of this, is where would they end up? Where would they go? Now, again, if they didn't have divers and they didn't have, people to look immediately after it, I can see the wreckage completely moving in a different direction. The ocean, eating up whatever it is, I mean, you can still find old ships and everything like that today, but, like, look, I don't know. It's just one of those where I can understand how it's not going to be in the same spot. Ocean degrades it and breaks it apart, but not super fast, right? Like, I feel like, all right, if something sinks in this location, all right, we're going to draw a circle, like a mile big circle around this specific point, and we're just going to stay in this area. You know what I mean? Where I don't think, like, okay, yeah, things shift, but they shouldn't shift that much. And again, the weight of a ship or a plane sinking, it should generally, like, not move too much. I mean, based on weight, I don't know. But again, I could be wrong. I'm not a scientist, right? So there's that. This was one of those where we were going to stop. I was going to give you a little bit more information, because this one really is interesting. So I have a little bit more information from a different article. So Flight 19 was a group of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers. Yep, we had talked about that. This became one of the most famous, mysterious, connected to the so-called Bermuda Triangle, and has fueled decades of speculation involving investigation failures, military errors, strange weather phenomena, and paranormal theories. So again, this happened on December 5th, 1945. Yep, we have where it was, we have the amount of bombers. Mission type was a routine navigation and bombing training exercise known as Navigation Problem Number 1, which is interesting. Scheduled time, 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Flight 19 takes off. Expected return was going to be around 6 p.m. Eastern. So again, we have the squad leader was Charles C. Taylor, experienced pilot, over 2,500 flight hours, recently transferred to Florida. The flight included 14 airmen total across the 5 planes. Planned route. The training mission involved flying east from Florida, conducting bombing practice near the Bahamas, turning north, returning southwest back to the base. So just essentially just a big loop, right? This whole mission should have covered roughly 300 miles. When things went wrong, around 3:40 p.m., radio transmission suggested that Lieutenant Taylor had become disoriented. Now, again, I don't know if that's something. Let's actually look that up right now. If let's see the type. Let's see here. Type of gas within the Bermuda. Found from. Okay, so the gas most discussed in connection with the Bermuda is methane. Okay, so it is methane gas, basically found in the form of natural gas hydrates, also called clathrates. Okay, so yes, methane gas can cause confusion and other cognitive symptoms, even when physical muscle weakness is not the most prominent issue. Okay. Okay, well, there's your answer right there, right? So what I'm getting at is kind of like what I'd said before with like the theory that, all right, these are these methane gas bubbles permeating from the Bermuda Triangle. Could they get up as high as these pilots were flying and cause disorientation? And if so, was anyone else disoriented? You know what I mean? One of the most famous reported transmissions, both my compasses are out and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale. Which, I mean, is... Okay, so if the flight took off 2:10, right? And then this transmission came in an hour and 20 minutes later. See, that's the weird thing, right? But who knows how long things were... maybe it was 30 minutes in, and he thought his compasses were going bad, and then he turned around, and then, yeah, this transmission came in. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, if you want more information about this, or like the breakdown, timeline, all that stuff, definitely go watch something from the History Channel, because I'm sure like they have those experts on there that just break down every little single piece. So we're just hitting really wave tops right now, right? Taylor believed that the squadron was over the Florida Keys, but investigators later believed they were actually over the Bahamas in the Atlantic Ocean. Holy cow. This mistaken location assessment may have caused the squadron to fly further out to sea instead of back towards Florida. That is so scary to think about, right? Is that you think you're flying inwards towards land, and then nope, you just keep flying further and further in the ocean. That would make for a scary movie. Okay, conditions during the disappearance, rough waters developing, choppy seas, fading daylight, and strong winds. By evening, visibility worsened significantly. I mean, yeah, if you think about it, back in the day, like, they didn't have night vision or anything of the sorts, so they're really flying just with their eyeballs, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're not going to have the ability to... Oh, if it turns to night, it's fine. A bigger issue that I see as the night goes on, right, is that they were planning on getting back at 6 o'clock. I don't know how, because I've lived. I mean, typically, like in the winter, right? There's not as much sunlight, right? Or at least here in the States, that's how it works. Is when the winter months get here, you have a little bit shorter days, right? So around, and again, Florida, I've never lived in Florida, surprisingly enough, just because I move all the time. Work hasn't taken me there, but I wonder, I can't imagine that Florida would be too different in the summertime. I've always lived up north and everything like that, but definitely like let's say, for instance, Alaska, right? So, and I know this is completely different. They're thousands of miles away from each other, but the way that it works, especially like in the Fairbanks area, right, is that like around 9-10 o'clock that sun will crest, and then around like 2 or 3 it starts going back down. And they were flying, supposed to be back at 6 o'clock. And now again, this is totally different. I don't think they would have planned to be back while it was still nighttime and everything. I mean, maybe not. I think they were still flying planes at night and everything, but definitely using the lights below them as navigation. But I don't think that they would want to stay out in the middle of the ocean at night. I don't know. I feel like navigating back in the day would have been so challenging. I mean, they obviously flew at night. They did. So I'm guessing it was a lot of trusting their whatever they have in the cockpit to tell them what they're doing. You know what I mean? So just one of those things. But I could also see some of the conditions, the visibility, being all right. Well, the sun is going down. Now I wonder if it was rises in the east, sets in the west. Now I'm wondering why he didn't trust that, right? Like, okay, it's getting dark out and we're not heading, like, I guess when in doubt, just head towards the sun, especially if you were flying over the ocean and you didn't see anything. Well, I know the sun is west. We should probably head that with just basic navigating skills. Like, that would be your biggest indicator that you're heading east out into the, the ocean and everything. I don't know, but it's one of those things where it's like in the air. Is this guy, Lieutenant Taylor's? Is he the one calling the shots, and you can't deviate from that? You know what I mean? Or is it something where it's like, well, you can keep going, I'm not. Final contact was around 7 p.m. Eastern, so it was dark. It was nighttime. Definitely, 100%. They were flying in the dark. I wonder what that last contact information was. So after that, it was just silence. No distress signal was definitely confirmed afterwards. Again, it was one of those things where if it's at night and, they're flying around, um, and they think they're higher than what they are, because if you're at the ocean, I can't imagine, like, there's no lights, there's nothing. So maybe their instruments weren't working correctly and they thought they were higher than what they were, and then they crashed in the ocean. Who knows? And it'd be interesting too, because you have 5 different aircraft. They can't all be using the same amount of fuel at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you would top them all off, but I could only imagine that maybe one of those aircraft weren't, as fuel efficient as maybe some of the other ones. That would be the scariest thing too, right? Is if you see like the aircraft behind you like started dropping from the sky. But what is odd too with all that, right, is that why didn't any of the other pilots or make a distress call, or when it was happening, like, oh, we just lost somebody, why was a call not made for that? I think there's again, this is why it's so, because there's so many questions as to like, why not, why didn't they do this, why didn't they do that? The rescue plane that also vanished, the mysterious deepened when a rescue aircraft disappeared shortly after being dispatched. Took off around 7:30 p.m. All right, so yeah, I guess this is very typical for, or back in the day, to fly at night. I don't know. I think that like if I were a pilot, that would be the biggest thing with all of this, is flying at night back in the day. Like, crew, that was a crew of 13 on board. The aircraft vanished without a trace. Some reports suggest a nearby ship observed an explosion in the sky. PBM mariners were known as flying gas tanks due to fuel vapor risks. Jeez. Search efforts. The Navy launched one of the largest searches in history at the time. Hundreds of planes and ships involved. Search was covered over the Atlantic Ocean, Bahamas region, and Florida coast. Results: no confirmed wreckage was found and no bodies recovered. That is another thing that's really weird with all of this too, right? Well, I'm not to get gruesome or anything like that, but like, okay, so if a plane goes down in the sky, crashing, no one's like trying to swim out of that, right? But it's just, yeah, again, one of those things where could they have? See, that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like their instruments weren't working correctly, because if they all thought they were higher than what they were, when they've tried to land the plane kind of like skipping across the water, so they, like, as I feel like they would have tried anything. I know that's not what they're designed to do and everything, but I feel like as a last means, why not try to do something like that? Let's see here. The official Navy investigation. The Navy initially classified the case as unknown. Later reports leaned toward a national navigational disorientation, fuel exhaustion, and weather complications. Most historians today believe Lieutenant Taylor mistakenly believed he was over the Florida Keys. Yep, we talked about that. So the Bermuda Triangle connection, Flight 19 had become one of the foundational stories of the Bermuda Triangle legend. The triangle is commonly described between Miami, Bermuda, and San Juan. Theories that emerged include magnetic anomalies, UFOs, time warps, paranormal activities. However, no scientific evidence has confirmed supernatural causes. Again, I do remember another story involving the Bermuda Triangle where this guy was flying over and he was going in the clouds, and I know this is again, I have this like image in my head because I think it was one of those kid books where it was talking about the Bermuda Triangle. But as he was like flying in the clouds, right, the clouds encircled him, but like he could there was like a tunnel, right, and as the clouds were getting closer in on him. He could hear like the clouds scraping against the clouds. It was a really weird story. I wish I could remember who it was about and everything. If you're listening and you know the story that I'm talking about, please drop a comment so I can look more into that. But yeah, the more, crazy stories out there, UFOs, time warps. I think this area can be explained away with like, natural causes and everything, but again, it's just the no wreckage, no bodies, no anything. That's the biggest mystery of this whole thing. Now, if they found something and like, if planes were just like going down and, ships were sinking in this area, but things were getting recovered, then okay. And I think maybe, again, I haven't researched too much in the Bermuda Triangle, but maybe that things do get found more often than not. But time warps would have been an interesting one too. So here, let's go. Lesser known facts. Taylor reportedly did not want to fly that day. Some accounts suggest that he requested to be excused from the mission. That is insane, right? I wonder if they would have had the same outcome if he didn't go on there. Several students thought the leader was confused. Radios, which we talked about that. The ocean depths in parts of the ocean are area. Okay, geez, let me try that again. The ocean depth in parts of the search area is extreme. Wreckage may simply remain undiscovered. And again, explaining some of this such stuff away, right? Where it's like, if things are super deep down there, and at the time they didn't have the equipment or the technology to get that far deep, it's like, okay, it makes sense why things weren't found right away. So, yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of what Flight 19 is about and was about. If you want to listen to more or hear more about Flight 19 specifically, like I said, we did an episode on this a while back. So go dig in far deeps into that one, and you'll be able to find that one. And I'm 99% sure we cover more about the what actually happened, a little bit more dates, times, locations, all that good stuff. And I didn't do that episode alone too, so if you want to hear some more people's sides of the story and their thoughts and opinions, go check that one out. Now this next one is another one that I think we covered a lot of military mysteries. I should have just put all of them in one compilation and just slapped it on there. No, that's being lazy. In February 1959, we are talking about Dyatlov Pass. Now, I remember this one specifically because I kept fucking up the name with Tristan. I called it like Dyatlov Pass, and he was getting pissed off. But the Dyatlov Pass incident. This is another one that we had done, and I believe we had a guest on for that episode too, and she walked us through a lot of this stuff, and pretty interesting story. I would give you a brief skim overview with this one. So, like I said, February 1959, 9 experienced hikers were found dead in the rural mountains of the Soviet Union under chilling and unexplained circumstances. Their tent had been slashed open from the inside, and several of the victims were discovered barefoot or without proper clothing in sub-zero temperatures. Some had severe internal injuries, such as broken ribs and fractured skulls, while one was missing her tongue. Traces of radiation were also found in some of the clothing. Soviet authorities concluded that the group died due to compelling natural force, but provided no clear explanation. Because the site was near areas of known military testing, speculations about secret weapons or military involvement has persisted. Modern research points to an avalanche or unusual wind dynamic as possible causes. But questions still linger. The Dyatlov incident remains one of the most haunting Cold War era mysteries, and it truly does. This is one of those stories that has a lot of, could it be this, could it be that? I would almost say this one is more odd than the Flight 19, and the reason why I say that is because you have the bodies of these individuals, but they're, like the article said, how these people died are in such weird and odd circumstances and doesn't make any sense, right? Now, again, kind of like what we had talked about with like the methane gas for Flight 19, it makes sense why someone would be confused. Now this doesn't make any sense, right? Like, okay, yeah, when you go in hypothermia, you have you have that sensation of like, okay, things are warm, things aren't bad, and I think you like, okay, yeah, cognitively you kind of are not all the way there, right? But if that were the case, you would think that there would be other reports of like, okay, when you get hypothermic, you're gonna probably, cut out your tongue, smash your head. Like, this is like an extreme example, and I just don't know if, dying from the elements, if this would be that, you know what I mean? And if like, it would make sense if it was like one person had this, but it was like everybody. Like, I'm pretty sure one person didn't have any clothes on. Like the thing said, like someone's tongue was cut out, broke, like internal damage, right? And then I think another part of the story was that they found like another person, like, not too far away, like trying to start a fire, when it was like, well, why wouldn't they just go back into the tent, right? But again, it could have been something where somebody like went, crazy or something like that. Like, that's, I don't know. I just don't, for as much as I love the big hairy guy, Bigfoot and everything, I don't think that the Yeti or anyone was in like that was involved in this incident, purely for the fact that too, like, right, if you think that a Sasquatch or Yeti was involved in this, you think limbs would have been like torn apart, right? And just like maybe people's faces were eaten, or like maybe someone would have gotten out of there, or because if there was 9 people, you think 9 against 1, you think that would have, they would have injured it, shot it, stabbed it, and there, you know what I mean? I feel like there would be something like that. Now, there also is the fact that, you have, I'm not saying anything bad about the governments, right? But you have like, governments will keep things classified, right? Like you just saw, like up on the Flight 19, like they classified it as unknown. And who's to say that they're not keeping some information from the public? Now, I don't know. It doesn't say here, and I don't remember when we talked about it if the Soviets had like ever come out with like the full disclosure of what actually happened. I mean, I know the Soviet Union is no longer a thing, but I can only imagine now that Russia would have kept some of these, files still hidden for whatever reason. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like 9 times, it's almost like what it happens in like police reports too, right? Like, someone dies or whatever. It's like they can only say so much. I feel like that's how the governments work with these mysteries too, is like, okay, just give them enough to like get them off our back, but then, they still hold some information. So I think that might be what's going on. And again, I don't know if Russia has ever tried to say what actually happened or not. It'll be interesting. And we did this one a long time ago, the Up Pass one. This was like probably within the first 20 episodes, I would say, that we did this one, and we have 159 episodes now, and we've been running for 3 years. So some stuff gets lost in the old nugget, you know what I'm saying? So another really crazy one. But if you want to know more about this and possibly, they were close to a military place, in the whole radiation thing. So it is one of those things where it's like, who knows what really happened? I feel, but they were experienced hikers, right? So it's like, you think they would know what they were doing. I don't remember if the area that they were going was like, never touched and like super challenging, and they wanted that, that challenge, and like just they couldn't handle it. I don't know. But again, just the injuries and the circumstances of all the deaths and everything like that, it's a very odd story. So if you want to go check this one out, again, we've covered this one in depth on a different episode. You're gonna have to go back to the roots of the show. Myself, I do remember Tristan was on that one, because like I said, he was getting mad at how I was pronouncing Dyatlov Pass, and I believe we had a guest on for that one as well. So go check that one out. Really cool story, very interesting. It'll probably leave you with more questions than anything. So, again, sorry, but it's just, again, one of those stories where who knows actually what really happened. Now this one is, you guys know my English fucking sucks, but this is German, so I mean, there's a little bit of forgiveness here. So the Nazi Wunderwaffe, secret weapons of World War II. I have a little bit more information on this one as well, because when I was reading this article, it only talks about one thing, and we'll talk about a few different things for this one. So this was the secret projects within, so the Nazi Wunderwaffe, I think that's how you pronounce it, but it was just secret weapons that were being made, like that specific thing. Now, the one that this article talks about in Milspouses is just one specific thing, the bell, or the die clock, or whatever, the clock-a, I don't know. Descriptions claim it was a bell-shaped device containing spinning cylinders and an unknown substance that supposedly produced powerful, possibly otherworldly effects. The project was allegedly conducted at an SS facility near a mine in Poland, where several scientists reportedly died during testing. The story originates from a 2000 book by Polish author Igor Wolotsky, who claimed to have seen the SS General Jacob Spornberg's post-war testimony describing the device. However, no credible documents, photographs, or physical evidence has ever been found or ever surfaced. Most historians consider the die clock a myth, yet it remains one of the most persistent tales in discussions about Nazi secret technology and military mysteries. Now, quick little couple thoughts on this one is, again, I know the History Channel has covered this one. I think specifically Ancient Aliens might have an episode on this one. But yeah, I feel like the Nazis were always up to secret weapons and, testing and just trying to get out there like the most high-tech technology, right? And the other article that I found about this stuff, like a lot of these like secret weapons and everything, for as advanced as they are, just came too late in the war. That's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. But the Bell one is very mysterious because you have all these, mysteries and tellings of the like Nazis working with alien technology and everything, which would be very interesting. I want to say, now I could be completely wrong, that during the war, during that time, the Nazis, I think, did recover some UFO crashes or like responded to some. Don't quote me on that, but like Foo Fighters, right? Like not the band, but that was something that what they called these anomalies during the war. So you have alien craft kind of watching this war go on, so it's very possible that at some point they scooped up some alien technology. It's very interesting. I feel like we should maybe do this for a month. Maybe let's like talk about, I know we kind of already talked about alien stuff, but maybe like, I don't know, how would we word this one? Nevertheless, I'll figure it out. But this stuff really is interesting, and I feel like I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth and do a little bit more research on it. But we're going to go to this other article that I have found about the Nazi Wunderwaffe, secret weapons of World War II. So the term Wunderwaffe translates from German as wonder weapon or miracle weapon. During the later years of World War II, the Nazis developed a series of advanced experimental weapons in hopes of turning the tides of the war as Allied forces closed in from multiple fronts. Many of these projects were years ahead of their time and influenced post-war military technology, rocketry, aviation, and even the early space race. Historical background, so the time period was from the 43 to 45. We have different locations: Berlin, Mittelwerk, underground production facility, interesting. Naval weapons research facilities, as Germans began losing territory from after 1942. Nazi leadership increasingly relied on experimental technology to reign military advantage. And again, they had a lot of underground stuff going on. So they had something called the Buzz Bomb, which was the V1 flying bomb. Let's see here. Description: early cruise missile powered by a projectile engine. Interesting. Produced a distinct buzzing sound. Key facts: speed was around 400 miles per hour. Not sure what that translates into kilometers. Range was about 150 miles and carried nearly 2,000 pounds of explosives. The impact, thousands of launched against England and Belgium, caused civilian terror and widespread destruction. So the buzz bomb was something that was implemented June 13th, 1944. So was out there. We have the V2 rocket. Let's see, first successful launch was October 3rd, 1942. They used it in September 8th, 1944, in London and Antwerp. Let's see here. It was the first long-range guided ballistic missile in history. Reached the edge of space before descending. Interesting. Speed is over 3,500 miles per hour. Supersonic impact meant victims heard no warning. That is insane. Production built underground tunnels. This was built in underground tunnels using forced labor. Thousands of prisoners died producing the V2 rockets under brutal conditions. Interesting. Let's see here. And then we have the Bell. This is another one. This is the Allied secret device. Again, this one is going to be all kind of speculation. Description, controversial. So it was alleged that the Nazi device, said to be involved, had an anti-gravity experiments, energy fields, unknown propulsion technology. This was no verified. There's no verified evidence. Yeah. No verified evidence, but it still gets mentioned, right? So there's that. The Biber and human torpedoes. German also experimented with mini submarines, human guided torpedoes, and suicide style naval weapons. Main use: coastal defense against Allied ships. These weapons were had limited success and extremely high casualty rates. Well, no shit. Massive super weapons. So you have the Rate, a gigantic tank weighing nearly 1,000 tons, larger than many naval destroyers. The Sun Gun concept, theoretically orbital minor weapon designed to focus sunlight as a beam. Interesting. Okay. So why did the Wunderwaffe fail? It happened too late. The project happened too late, like I had said, in 1944 to 1945. So all these, weapons that they were trying to get out, they were losing the war. Resources shortage. So Germany lacked the fuel, the materials, and the skilled labor to make these things. And then facilities and launch sites were being constantly attacked. So they couldn't get these things out. So let's see here. So the impact after the war. So both the United States and Soviet raced to capture scientists, blueprints, and rockets from all of this stuff. Werner von Braun was a German scientist. So he worked. I'm pretty sure how this is reading is that he worked for the Nazis. So Operation Paperclip, the U.S. brought German scientists, including Werner von Braun. He later helped develop NASA's Saturn V moon rocket. Many World War II German technologies directly influenced modern missiles, jet aircraft, and space exploration. So, so you have that, because again, the article that in the Milspouses didn't really kind of go into it, just kind of talked about the Bell. So that's why I wanted to bring up some of these other weapons and other technologies that were being used during this time. So yeah, we just touched a little bit on that. Interesting stuff, right? Interesting stuff. Now we're going to go on to the next article that we have here, and it's the America's Lost Nuclear Weapons Cold War Secrets, right? So these two U.S. military incidents remain unresolved, both involving lost nuclear bombs. That is right. So somewhere out there's a nuclear bomb just sitting, just chilling, right? Don't poke it with a stick. So the Tybee Island of Georgia, 1958. On February 5th, 1958, a B-47 bomber collided with an F-86 fighter jet during a training mission. To prevent an explosion, the bomber jettisoned a Mark 15 nuclear bomb into the waters of Tybee Island. Despite extensive searches, the weapon was never discovered. Holy shit. Where is Tybee Island, Georgia? It looks like obviously, it looks like it's just like right on the coast of Georgia. Looks like it's on the northern? Yeah, it looks like it's on. Well, nevertheless, it's right on the coast of Georgia, wherever. But, yeah. So you have somewhere now. I wonder if this is one of those things where I wonder if they did find it, right? Like, I wonder, maybe not like right away, but like, I wonder if maybe someone scooped it up and they have it in their backyard. You know what I mean? Like in the shed, like, hey, look what I got. But you think they would have some sort of like, they'd be able to track this thing. This kind of reminds me of the movie The Crazies. Not the old one, but the new one. Well, it's not new anymore, but the one that was made in like 2010-ish era. I don't remember the actor's name, but the guy from Justified and what was that one movie where he shaved his head? Nevertheless, it reminds me of the movie The Crazies, where they go out into the swamp and then they stop and then there's an aerial shot and it's a military like plane of some sorts and you can see that it's like in pieces or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, whatever this was, it was carrying something and now the whole town is going crazy nutso, right? So, interesting thing. So, the Philippine Sea, 1965, on December 5th, 1965, an A-4E Seahawk jet carrying a B-43 nuclear bomb rolled off the deck of the USS something and sank over 16,000 feet of water. The pilot, the aircraft, and the weapon were never found. Both bombs are still classified as broken arrow incidents. The U.S. military term for lost or accidental nuclear events. How crazy would this be, right? If one of these things were to go off, specifically the Tybee Island, Georgia one, right? Like if that one is just like 5 feet underground, and this one just goes off. I don't mean to laugh, but can you imagine? Can you imagine just like waking up tomorrow morning or seeing later today in the news, like, hey, Tybee Island just had a nuclear bomb go off. Now, I wonder. I want to see the Mark 15 nuclear bomb. Let's look at some. Let's look at some stats of the Mark 15 nuclear bomb. Well, the thing ain't fucking small, I can tell you that one. All three models were generally physically similar, weighing around 7,600 pounds. Pretty big, 136 to 147 inches in length. Let's see here. I'm trying to see here. Capabilities, maybe. Destruction. I'm trying to see, like, okay, if this thing were to go off, what would happen, right? So this one, like the Mark 5 nuclear bomb is its own thing. Apparently there was like 3 or 4 of them that were made. They're all generally the same, but this like specific, like this model or whatever, that's what it was called. So let's see here. What would happen if the Mark 5 nuclear bomb went off? Oh, so there's actually a video on YouTube about it. Okay, well, that one actually is not about the Mark 5 specifically. Choose a... Oh, interesting. There is a nukeblastsimulator.com. What? Okay, so choose a bomb. Is there a Mark 5? Or a Mark 15? I'm sorry if there's this awkward silence. I'm trying... Right now I'm in a nukeblastsimulator.com where you can pick your bomb essentially. And well, okay, so here's... Okay, so they have a Mark 84. We're gonna pick that one. And then I'm putting it right next to Georgia, and I'm clicking the button. Boo! That wasn't... I'm not gonna say that wasn't terrible. Air blast, surface blast. Interesting. This is kind of cool. I mean, it's not cool, but it's interesting to see. Well, so that was a standard 2,000-pound general purpose bomb. And this thing, the Mark 15 was 7,600 pounds. Now, I don't know if that's the bomb was capable of being dropped free fall. Okay, so there is a Mark 29. Let's see if there's a Mark 29 that we can pick right here. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything close to like 7,000 pounds. Okay, let's try that one. Oh, well, that's a little bit bigger. To me, I feel like that's a little bit more accurate. Interesting. This is okay. I really think you guys should. I'm gonna put this in the description too, the Nuke simulator thing, so you guys can try it out if you want to. But yeah, you pick your bomb, and then you put it wherever, and then it shows you like the blast radius, like the complete vaporized fireball area. That is so cool. This is a really cool. I'm gonna pin this to my tab because this I don't know. This is really interesting stuff, right? So we'll keep on moving on. We'll quit taking up your time with this as I'm just playing around right now. But yeah, there's a Nuke simulator. Destructive power of this thing, I'll mess around with it a little bit more, but I can only imagine that it wouldn't have been a small bang. It would have been, if this thing ever goes off, I'm sure it's not going to be a good day, right? So all right, let's keep on going. We have next the UFO sightings and green fireballs from 1948 to 1950. On December 5th, a lot of things happens on December 5th, 1948. Personnel at Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico witnessed a bright green fireball streaking slightly across the sky. In the following months, similar sightings occurred near Los Alamos and other key locations, both key sites in America's nuclear research program. Now, I do remember reading about this too, where during that time, a lot of UFOs were seen over nuclear facilities. Now, I think even nowadays, we still have reports of UFOs, checking out our nuclear facilities, seeing what we're up to and everything. So pretty interesting right there. The glowing objects moved in straight lines, emitted no sound. They showed no signs of breaking apart like ordinary meteors. Despite months of observations and data collection, research could not identify the phenomena. The project ended in 1951 without an official explanation. It'll be interesting to see. Now, I know right now a lot of UFO disclosure stuff is coming out, so it'll be interesting to see if any of like these sort of things, and now again, I don't know if we have the full story and everything. Like, I don't know if this is like still classified or whatever, but obviously there are stories and everything, so I wonder if okay, so let's see here. Began documenting the sites, leading the Air Force to launch Project Twinkle in 1949. So it'll be interesting to see if like any more stuff of like these stories come out, any more names, places, things like that, so like people can do their own little research, right? And then we got time for one last one. As far as that being said, there's only one other story after this. I'll let you go check it out as the audience members. But we have the Ghost Army of 1944. Now this one is awesome. I think this is one of the coolest stories that, just how creative you can be to deceive people, right? So it's the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army, formed in January 1944. This 1,100-man unit specialized in deception tactics designed to mislead German forces. The team combined sounds, artists, engineers, and radio operators to create realistic illusions of entire divisions. They used inflatable tanks, sound effects, fake radio transmissions to make the enemy believe large Allied forces were gathering where they were not actually going. Between June 1944 and March 45, the Ghost Army conducted over 20 successful deception missions across France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany. Their work remained classified for decades, only becoming public in 1996. Again, remember what I said earlier about like just holding on to information? And then in 2002, the Congress awarded the unit the Congressional Gold Medal in recognition of its service. I do have a little bit more information that we can talk about. Let's see here. Yeah, so the divisions that they were trying to imitate were anywhere from like 15 to 30,000 troops. You had artists, designers, sound engineers, actors, radio operators. Let's see here, the arrival in Europe in May of 1944. They went to Liverpool, and then they arrived shortly before D-Day. So how they operated is they used inflatable tanks, fake artillery, sound deception, radio, fake military headquarters, sound effects, tank movement, troop chatter, construction sounds. It would be really interesting to see if they were like all in one location, or if that headquarters was broken up into like 200 men or service members groups, and like that, like they broke it down. I was 1,100 people, but did they break it down to even more, and then they spread them across all these different places, right? So they made rubber Sherman tanks, fake airplanes, wooden artillery, and dummy camps. From the air or a distance, these illusions often appeared real to German reconnaissance. So the radio deception, so they had radio habits, Morse code styles, transmission patterns. The German intelligence monitored Allied communication heavily, making radio deception extremely effective. So that's pretty cool too. Major operation locations, you have Normandy. The Ghost Army simulated large troop movements to convince German defenders that a major attack force was assembling elsewhere. Interesting. So it has a couple of different operations. Although the Ghost Army specialized in deception, they often operated close to enemy fronts within artillery range. If captured, they could have been treated as spies. Their missions depended heavily on secrecy. Let's see here. Many soldiers were art students. That's so cool. They used Hollywood techniques, I should say, not technicians. Camouflage and staging resembled movie production methods. Fake generals. Some soldiers impersonated high-ranking officers in public to sell the illusion. Sound trucks were revolutionary. The audio deception technology was highly advanced in the 1940s. Classification, we said that. It came to light in the 1996. Let's see here. So, impact of them doing this saved thousands of Allied lives, misled German commanders repeatedly, and played a major role in tactical deception across Europe. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that this Ghost Army was a thing, right? And I don't think they have anything like that nowadays. I feel like the only thing that they have is something called psyops, right? Where they, rather than creating this illusion, it's like propaganda type work and misleading, whatever they want to do. The psyops is a really interesting area. You can go onto like, what is it, like the anyarmy.com like recruiting thing, and you can look into it, right? They have I mean, they have to recruit somehow, right? So they have like little snippets of information on it. It's really, really interesting. I'm wondering if this is like, the precursor for that in a sort of weird way, right? You have to be an odd duck to want to do all that stuff. But I mean, for this specifically, I mean, I think it would have been really cool. Imagine being an art student and being like, hey, you wanna paint tanks for the army? Can you imagine that? Or you're a construction guy and you're just like, hey, you want to build a fake artillery for us? Pretty interesting stuff. But hey, I think that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank you for stopping by, listening to me ramble for about an hour about all these crazy mysteries and everything. Some of them can be explained away. Something like this was not necessarily a mystery, but still, pretty fascinating. First couple ones, though, you have the lot pass, you have Flight 19, pretty mysterious. All those Nazi weapons, and then again, those nuclear bombs. Let's just hope none of that stuff ever goes off, right? So, hey, thank you for stopping by. Thanks for, again, listening to me talk about this. We do have more episodes about military coming out in this month, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for hanging around. And again, we do our shirts and everything. We have like that gear from Zazzle, so if you want to support the channel that way, go for it. We do have Buy Me a Coffee, so you can check that out. Support the channel that way. But I figured out how to get those ads at the very end. So yeah, that's pretty nice. So you guys don't have to listen to ads at the very beginning. So appreciate that. But nevertheless, thanks again for stopping by. And just remember, we don't want stuff that's normal. We want stuff that's effing weird.
And that wraps up another episode of That's Effin' Weird. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow, rate, and share the show with someone who loves the strange, the unexplained just as much as you. You can keep up with all the things weird by following us on social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and soon to be Patreon, where we share our clips, updates, and even more bizarre content between episodes. Got a topic you want us to cover, or a weird story of your own? Reach out to us and be a part of the conversation. We're always looking for the next strange thing to dive into. And just remember, we don't want stuff that's normal. We want stuff that's effing weird.
You say it just dropped off the screen, somewhere over the cold Atlantic, but you smell like jet fuel and cheap gin, and your eyes are looking for the exit. I know about the pallet in the hangar, the one with the stencil mark scrubbed off. You were always bad at keeping quiet, even when the stakes were terminal. It is a broken arrow in the backyard, a secret project gone cold. You sold the coordinates, it's for a habit. Now we are waiting for the flash. The landlord is asking about the vibration, the rattling in the kitchen pipes at midnight. That was not a seismic event. That was you buried under the floorboards, working on something heavy and gray, something that should not exist in a rental. I found the blueprints in the trash next to the empty packs of cigarettes. It is a broken arrow in the backyard, a secret project gone cold. You sold the coordinates, it's for a habit. Now we are waiting for the flash. Soft talk does not fix the fallout. You lied about the payload. You lied about the trajectory. You were just a redacted line in a ledger, a smudge on a radar sweep. It is a broken arrow in the backyard, a secret project for a habit. Now we are waiting for the flash. Just a missing piece of hardware.